Our world is changing at an exponential speed. Ray Kurzweil, the head of engineering at Google, had a very simple way to exemplify what this exponential growth really implies for us. He called it the 30 steps example. If you go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and you get to 30, that's linear growth. If you go through the same steps in an exponential way and you go from 2 to 4, and then by the time you get to 30, you have a billion. Think about it. 30 steps in a linear way takes you to 30. The same number of steps in an exponential way takes you to a billion. This is mind-blowing. And technology is an amazing example to illustrate what this exponential growth really looks like. That's why today your telephone is 1,000,000 times smaller, 1,000,000 times cheaper, but 1,000 times more powerful than what used to be 40 years ago, a supercomputer, and it took half a building to contain and costed $60 million. What does this mean for our potentiality? What does this mean for our growth? What does this mean for our personal development? What took our parents and our grandparents lifetimes to accomplish, the power, the stature, the progress that it took them lifetimes to bring about through hard work and labor, today is literally at our fingertips. This exponential growth is literally in our lap today. How do you not get swept away by it? How do you make sure that the carpet is not pulled from under your feet? How do you keep up? You should not try to keep up with exponential growth by living a linear life. So if you're living a life where you're compartmentalizing your day into slots, where you have 8 hours dedicated to work and 2-hour slot for family, the 1 week slot a year for holidays, you're living a linear life. In order to make exponential growth, you need to let go of the linear life and you need to embrace exponential living. What does exponential living really look like? This is where the lines or the boundaries between all these slots are blurred. This is where we throw all these slots and all these compartments of our lives into one melting pot and we make one big soup and we jump in and we swim in it. This is where labor versus love turns into labor of love. This is where productivity versus fun turns into joyous productivity. This is where holiday versus work turns into a working holiday. Our life becomes a vacation. We're enjoying every moment of it. We are living the good life. So if you're ever feeling stuck and wondering what's wrong and can't figure it out, look at your life and ask yourself, are you still living a linear life while you're being pulled into exponential growth? That's why we developed Shift Happens. Shift Happens is where we blend and merge and melt together all the slots of our lives, where we blur the lines between the compartments in our lives, where our love does not have to compete with labor, where our time for joy does not have to compete with our time for productivity, where our time for rest does not have to compete with our time for work. This is what Shift Happens is all about. It's time to make that shift. Let's start growing exponentially.